They laughed. Oh, how they laughed! The sound rising above the chatter of the bustling saloon like the cackling of crows circling carrion. When she stepped timidly through the bat-wing doors, dressed in nothing but tattered rags that hung off her frail figure like forgotten cloth left to rot in the desert wind, her bare feet dust-stained from the long road, her hair a tangled mess that caught what little lamplight flickered in the room, and her eyes wide with equal parts fear and defiance as every gaze in that smoky, whiskey-soaked hall turned upon her. Cowhands, drifters, card sharks, painted ladies leaning lazily against the bar, all of them taking in the sight of the girl who dared to show herself in a place like this, in clothes that looked fit for the charity bin rather than the polished boots and pressed vests. Most folk wore to town. A hush fell for a heartbeat, the kind of silence that crackles like kindling before fire takes hold. And then it came, the laughter, rolling out harsh and unkind, men slapping their knees, women covering painted lips with gloved hands as they whispered mockery into each other's ears, the piano player faltering in his tune as even he could not resist the humor of this spectacle. "Would you look at that?" one rancher drawled. His hat tipped back as he leaned against the wall. "Looks like the beggars. Been turned loose to wander in with the cattle," another barked. "Girl, you lose a fight with a scarecrow on the way here." And the room erupted again, cruel amusement echoing like gunfire in the canyon. The girl swallowed hard but did not step back, though every fiber of her body screamed for her to run, to hide, to escape the searing heat of their ridicule. And instead she lifted her chin, eyes blazing for just a flicker, with a strength born from hardship, though her lips trembled as if she wrestled words she dared not speak. The barkeep, a broad man with a stained apron and arms like barrels, frowned at her, not in sympathy but annoyance. "Ain't no handouts here," he growled, wiping a glass with a dirty rag. "If you ain't buying, you best be moving." The girl opened her mouth to speak, but before sound could form, another voice cut through the din, smooth yet firm, carrying the weight of a man who did not ask for attention, but always received it. "She's with me." Heads turned as the crowd parted slightly, and there he was, the cowboy, sitting calm and steady at a table near the back, his boots crossed at the ankles, his hat pulled low, a half-empty glass of whiskey in front of him. He was not a loud man, not one to demand notice, but everything about him drew the eye, the way his shoulders squared as if ready to carry any burden, the quiet strength in his weathered face marked by sun and storm, the steel in his gaze that had seen too much and yet still softened for those who needed it. He rose slowly, and as he did, the laughter ebbed, uncertain now, like a fire running out of air. He moved with the easy grace of a man who had walked too many miles of hard land, spurs jingling softly with each step until he reached the girl's side. Without hesitation, he slipped off his coat, a worn but sturdy duster smelling faintly of leather and earth, and draped it over her shoulders, covering the tatters that had drawn such scorn. The saloon murmured, whispers racing through the crowd like prairie wind, confusion replacing mockery. "She's rich enough for me," the cowboy said simply, his voice carrying clear across the hushed room. And with those words, he might as well have thrown down a gauntlet, for no one dared laugh now. He guided the girl toward his table, pulling out the chair as though she were a lady of high regard, not the outcast they had mocked moments before, and she sank into it, eyes glistening with gratitude she could not yet voice. The crowd watched, stunned into silence, and the cowboy poured her a glass of water from the pitcher at his table, sliding it to her as though it were fine wine. "Drink," he said gently, and she obeyed, hands trembling as the coolness soothed her parched throat. But the silence did not last. Pride and cruelty rarely surrender without one last sting, and a man rose from a card table nearby, tall, broad, with arrogance painted across his face. "Now hold on," he sneered, stepping forward. "You mean to tell us this ragged stray's worth your time, cowboy? Don't make me laugh. She ain't rich, she ain't proper, she ain't—" But the cowboy's eyes cut to him, sharp as a drawn blade, and the man faltered mid-sentence. words dying in his throat as though he'd been struck. "She's worth more than you'll ever know," the cowboy said, voice low but carrying, and for a moment the room remembered that this was no ordinary drifter. Stories whispered about him in dusty towns, tales of his honor, his quick draw, the way he stood for those who could not stand for themselves. No one dared challenge him outright, not if they valued their pride or their lives. The challenger scowled, muttered something about fools and their strays, and slunk back to his table, the tension bleeding away like smoke into the rafters. The girl stared at the cowboy, wonder in her eyes as if she could not fathom why he had stood for her when no one else ever had. "Why?" she whispered, her voice hoarse from dust and silence. He shrugged, sipping his whiskey before setting it down with quiet finality. "Because sometimes the poorest clothes hide the richest hearts. Don't let their laughter tell you your worth. You don't need their approval." His words struck her, deeper than the cruelty had, planting a seed of hope where despair had long reigned. For the first time in years, she felt seen, not as a beggar, not as a burden, but as someone of value. And so began a night the town would not soon forget. As whispers filled the saloon and eyes followed them, the girl sat taller in her seat, warmth from the cowboy's coat wrapping not just her shoulders, but her soul. And in that moment, though the world still mocked and doubted, she felt something stir. Inside, a spark of dignity that could not be, smothered by rags or ridicule. The cowboy did not boast, did not grandstand, but simply sat by her side, silent guardian against the jeers of the world. And it was enough to shift the air, to make even the cruelest rethink their laughter. Little did they know, this was only the beginning, for what started as a simple act of kindness would soon unravel into a tale of love, courage and defiance, where the measure of wealth would not be in gold or land, but in the strength of hearts willing to stand together against all odds. And if you, dear listener, believe that true worth is not measured by riches or fine clothes, but by the love and courage we carry within, then you will not want to miss what comes next. Stay with us for Chapter 2, where the laughter of fools will be silenced, and the power of love and honor will shine brighter than any fortune. And before we turn the page on this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, so you never miss a tale that reminds us all what truly matters.